Right, so I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you are aware that the trailers for episode 5 of the Amazing Digital Circus haven't been the most descriptive things ever created. In fact, the person making the teasers doesn't even seem to know what's going on. So I have taken it upon myself to analyse all the trailers we have been given so far to try and come to some sort of conclusion regarding what the episode is, what will happen to the characters, and how many people at Glitch require a strong dose of antipsychotics. Let's get into it. First up, what information do we actually have on the episode? Well, at the point I'm writing this video, all of the teasers are made up of 4 posts on the YouTube community page, 5 different variations of the Wacky Watch website, and 1 full teaser video that I can't quite say is proper animation, but that might have something to do with this ancient-ass editing software. Let's start off with the community posts and 4 out of the 5 Wacky Watch editions because they give us a clearer picture of all the possibilities this episode could involve. Scenario number 1 is the safari, in which Jax is shown in a hunting outfit with a gun in some place vaguely resembling Africa. The Wacky Watch makes note of endangered species, which suggests that the goal of this adventure will be for some of the cast to save these animals from Jax the Hunter. It doesn't appear to be going too well for them though, as we see a red ribbon being chomped down by this purple rabbit. The only place we've seen these ribbons before is on Gangle, and I wouldn't put it past Jax to commit some light cannibalism. Scenario number 2 is the office, where they're all just working a regular 9 to 5. The Wacky Watch here says that King is after summoning more demons, but after the whole angel debacle, I doubt that will be the case in this episode. In fact, I have some reason to suspect that this plot isn't real at all, but I'll get back to that later when we talk about the video. Scenario number 3 is the game, where our crew are set out to play the worst diamond sports. Kinger appears to take on the role of coach here, which can only go terribly. Also, considering the level of coordination we've seen from some of these characters so far in this series, I don't have very high hopes for their performance here. And finally, scenario number 4 is the mob, where our group have turned into members of a crime syndicate with Jax appearing to have the position of power. The Wacky Watch tells us that Pomni may try to double-cross the group here and ends up in some dangerously hot water as a result of it. So now we have our 4 possibilities of what could be occurring in this episode, but do they all carry equal weight in the production itself? Well, to answer that, we need to dissect this horrible, awful, terrible trailer. The reason this trailer is so ass is because Caine, who's normally the person to make the video trailers, is not able to do so this time because he's late for his flight to Copper 9. Yes, really. So he instead leaves Bubble, Ragatha, and Jax to do the trailer instead. Bubble does the brunt of the work here, putting together all the visuals as well as writing the script for the other 2 to read. Unfortunately, it seems that Bubble is profoundly dyslexic and can't spell at all. His sentences are also completely disjointed from one another, which in an ironic twist kind of fits with how this episode is going so far. The voice lines aren't too important, so I'll come back to those in a bit, but for right now let's look at the question of which of the scenarios are happening and how much of the episode are they likely to take up. Despite the fact that we're shown scenario 1 first, I don't think it's actually the first event in the episode. That title goes to scenario 3, the game. We'll come back to why this is a significant factor later, but Kane can be seen here in the commentary booth with Bubble pulling up some data sheets. Kane will not be fully present in any other section of the episode, so the fact that he is here means this part must go first. The group are shown to be playing against a team that consists of a swapped version of themselves, both in terms of colour palettes and personalities. Jax is timid, Ragatha is aggressive and cruel, Pomni and King are both angry, and Zooble appears to have no clue what's going on. Interestingly, Gangle has been replaced by a pink version of one of the reoccurring NPCs, Orbsman, that we saw in the last episode. Because Softball is inherently very boring to animate, a lot of what we see from the trailer is moments from the dugout, with Jax in particular being a focus here. We see him have a more civilized conversation with Pomni where he says something that surprises her, though that's not a very high bar. He puts up with Kinger's antics, and we can see his shadow is here on top of Gangle as a smile fades from her face. Side note here, Gangle is laughing without her comedy mask. Ragatha also seems to get a fair bit of screen time in this section. We see her both looking disapprovingly at the camera, likely because Jax is behind it, and stepping up to bat. The story here likely follows the first inning of a game with our group batting first. Zooble isn't seen much in the dugout, so she'd likely be the first up to bat, with Ragatha going second. Pomni, Jax, and Ragatha talk about some things before Zooble finishes her at bat, and then Jax takes the opportunity of an exposed Gangle to do something while Ragatha is at the plate. The concerned reaction from her is likely either due to the result of this encounter between Jax and Gangle, or something that has happened with Caine. This something that will happen will force him to switch locations to scenario 1, the safari. The safari scenario is the only one of these adventures that we have a confirmed name for, Poacher's Paradise, something that Jax seems to be uniquely adjusted for, which adds on to my theory from my short that this was done specifically for him. The rest of that short is pretty much confirmed bogus at this point, but at least I got something out of it. Unfortunately, the only other shot we get of this location is a blurry smear frame of Jax about to hit something, so I can't give much more information on it. From the Wacky Watch image, I will infer that Gangle takes issue with Jax's killing, and in an unnecessarily cruel move, he snaps on her and tries to snap her in half. The scenario I believe to come next in the story is the office. Well, kinda. Contrary to what we saw in the Wacky Watch and on the YouTube post, Pomni in a suit isn't dressed up for a 9 to 5. She's instead dressed up to be the actual president. Zooble here acts as security, with Kinger and presumably Ragatha being secretaries. We see Jax waltz into the office in an outfit resembling his safari one while holding a briefcase. There is also this shot of Pomni looking like she's about to defuse a bomb in this outfit. I believe the story for this segment will be as follows. After the events of the safari with Jax, something happens to the group through the medium of Caine. More on that later again. Gangle and Jax don't appear in the office with the other four, which may have something to do with this. Here, it also appears that the constant switching is having an effect on the memories and minds of our cast. Ragatha and Pomni look aware that they aren't in the right spot, Zooble is less conscious of that fact but still knows something is up, and Kinger is blissfully ignorant, taking to his new role immediately. Jax, who also appears well aware, marches into the room with a case and flings it at Pomni before making some gesture into the fourth wall. The case turns out to be a bomb that Pomni almost fails to defuse before we move on to our next location. Scenario 4 is next, with the group losing a lot of their memory and really committing to the role. Unlike what the Wacky Watch says, Pomni doesn't appear to be doing any betrayal here. Instead, it is Ragatha that has said something to draw the rest of the group's attention. That is the last of the scenarios, but it's not where this episode ends. That honor goes to this nighttime scene with only Jax, Ragatha, and Pomni. This looks to be the typical Digital Circus talk it out environment where we will get some character development for these two and they will try to stop actively hating each other, at least for a little bit. Pomni is here because she's the main character, but I doubt she'll do too much. And now is the time where I can finally talk about Caine, because the segment with the most screen time devoted to it in the trailer wasn't actually any part of the adventure that the group was going on, it was what was happening to our benevolent ringmaster. We saw in episode 3 that Caine is struggling with his own mental stability after being told by Zooble that they don't like the one thing he's good at, making adventures. And I think that's going to continue here, but to a more extreme level. Caine starts off happy and enthusiastic in the softball arena. Here, he is completely fine. It's just another day with another adventure. He's also feeling a little bit more confident after nobody, at least to our knowledge, complained directly to him about last episode's adventure. That confidence quickly fades, however, as Jax clearly did not want to be taken out to the ballgame. This deeply concerns Caine, who quickly tries to shift course into something that Jax will be happier with. Hence, Poacher's Paradise comes to exist. Caine is teetering on the edge here, but still maintains his composure enough to see the first part of this adventure through. Since this adventure was designed specifically for Jax, none of the others find it particularly enjoyable. Gangle especially takes an issue with it, and that results in her being attacked and chopped. This doesn't compute for Caine, who's never had to deal with this violence before, even from Jax, who normally uses the environment, rather than his own hands and teeth, to inflict pain. It becomes too much, and Caine starts to come close to malfunctioning, resulting in yet another shift in the story. This one isn't as clean, and Jax and Gangle disperse from the rest of the group. Caine by this point is in full-on nightmare abstraction mode and has very little control over what is happening. As he spirals further into madness, the style of the adventure shifts again, along with the tone of the world. As Caine's code corrupts, it also begins to have an effect on the memories of the characters, causing them to play more into the specific characters that they're given rather than behaving as their regular selves. Finally, something has to save Caine. Perhaps it's this complete commitment to the story from the cast, or something else happens, but Jax, Ragatha, and Pomni are then transported to a safe terrain without much going on where they can have their discussion. And that is where the episode, and my theory behind it, concludes. Thank you all for watching, and enjoy the episode.